of Illinois from Monday, August 19th through Thursday. And there are 30 uncommitted delegates to next week's convention out of about 4,600, me included. Now, this is adding some potential drama to the proceedings, as these uncommitted delegates, they want 2 speaking slots at the convention, one for a doctor who has worked in Gaza since the war began, and one for one of the 30 uncommitted delegates. They have a plethora of other demands, and they say if those demands aren't granted, they can't guarantee how they will act during the prime time of televised production of the Democratic National Convention, including on the day that Kamala Harris will make her historic speech. And since President Joe Biden exited the race on July 21st and passed the baton to Kamala Harris, the race has effectively reversed itself. It is no exaggeration to state that VP Harris would be the favorite to win the White House, according to polls, if the presidential contest were held today. Relative to the day that Biden dropped out, Harris has gained 2 percentage points nationally, and as of Sunday, she is leading in national polling averages. And in swing states, she has gained an average of 2.1 points since June 21st. And she's leading, according to some polls, in 5, and some polls even say 6 of the 7 swing states. Well, that's the news of the day. And this is Areva Martin in real time. And I'm your host, Areva Martin. Glad to be back after my brief hiatus last week. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. I want to thank my good producer, Robert, and my guest host for holding it down last week. I wasn't off on a frolic. I was actually spending time at a conference, the Kairos Convening for the Culture Conference on the island, Martha's Vineyard, which is in the great state of Massachusetts, attending lots of political events with elected officials, thought leaders, and some of the nation's leading voices on issues that are important to me, like reparations, reproductive freedom, Black maternal health, issues around foster care, homelessness, economic advantages, or economic, I should say, growth for African-American communities. So I was hard at work while on that island, but I'm glad to be back and glad to have joining me in this hour Dr. Raphael Sonnenschein, Executive Director of John Randolph Haynes and Dora Haynes Foundation, and Lauren McKay is back. She's a 5-time Emmy Award-winning TV host, producer, and former journalist. And in hour 2, there is a Senate bill and lots of news lately about artificial intelligence and the content that has been flooding the web and making it less clear than ever what's real and not real, what's fake, particularly leading up to this election. Look, we have about 82 days before the election, and we know that lots of actors, some foreign, some domestic, are busy creating all kinds of false images, false videos, and disseminating false information. Former President Trump has falsely claimed images from a Vice President Kamala Harris rally were AI generated. He says that there was a spoof robocall of Joe Biden telling voters not to cast their ballot. So we're just hearing about all kinds of craziness on the internet related to artificial intelligence. So we decided that we needed to check out these AI fakes, or as some call them, deep fakes. So in hour 2, we're going to go deep. We're going to dig behind the headlines and bring 2 experts who know a whole lot about deep fakes and how AI produced content is shaping this year's presidential as well as down ballot elections. Dominique Shelton is an AI and data privacy expert. She's also the author of a book called Trust: Responsible AI, Innovation, Privacy, and Data Leadership. And our good Dr. Andre Brock, he's associate professor of literature, media, and communication at Georgia Institute of Technology. He's going to join us in hour 2. He is always a wealth of information about how we should engage on the internet and what we should be concerned about, what we should be looking out for. So the author of this really important book on AI is joining me, as well as our good friend, Dr. Brock. So make sure you stick around for hour 2. Here's what I'm thinking about in real time. So I was scheduled today to go on CNN and talk about the arrest of 5 people related to Matthew Perry. We know Matthew Perry, the beloved actor from Friends, who died after taking a series of drugs, including ketamine, found face down at a pool spa at his own property in Los Angeles. A sweeping indictment and arrest of 5 folks today, including 2 medical doctors. And one of the individuals arrested is called the ketamine queen. And then again, someone who is identified as a drug dealer. So the U.S. District Attorney for the Southern District announced these indictments, announced this scheme to purchase ketamine under false prescriptions, using prescriptions that were meant for individuals, getting this ketamine to these drug dealers, essentially, who were pushing this medication to Matthew Perry. There's text messages that were revealed today of one of the doctors saying, "How much should we charge this moron?" Yes, that's a doctor communicating by text message to someone about charging Matthew Perry, whom everyone knew had a problem with substance abuse, had been involved in ketamine therapy, which is a legitimate form of therapy to address issues of depression and those who suffer from substance abuse. But again, under the careful eye of a physician, the coroner said that the amount of ketamine in Matthew Perry's system was far greater than that which had been administered to him about a week and a half before his death, under the care of his doctor who was providing him with this. His personal assistant that lived in the house with him allegedly gave him 50, 60 shots of ketamine over the period leading up to his death. So obviously just a case of pure greed. You have medical doctors who are to do no harm, who take an oath to help preserve life, involved in this illicit drug scheme to cause people like Matthew, who are addicted to drugs, who are trying to turn their lives around, trying to deal with their substance abuse, being preyed on by medical doctors and others simply because they can do it. So kudos to the Southern District of California for breaking up this ring. This woman who's known as the ketamine queen, when they invaded her house, they found drugs, they found other paraphernalia to suggest that she was running some kind of drug ring. So again, these are allegations. Nothing's been proved in court, but we know arrests have been made. There's serious charges of conspiracy to sell illicit drugs. These individuals, again, at least 3 or 4 of them have already pled guilty to these charges. The people, again, those that have not pled, who were arrested today, charges range from conspiracy to distribute ketamine, to distribution of ketamine resulting in death, to possession with intent to distribute met, which is also involved in this case, altering and falsifying records related to a federal investigation, because one of the doctors involved actually falsified a treatment plan to suggest that Matthew Perry had a treatment plan consistent with the amount of drugs found in his system. That's a lie, according to the federal prosecutors. But these are very serious charges. These individuals face anywhere from 10 to life in prison if they are convicted of these charges. And as someone who is a member of the California State Bar, cannot even imagine, again, medical doctors that we trust with our lives, depend on to help us in the most dire times, being involved in selling drugs and aiding and abetting in the death of a beloved TV talk sitcom star. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be a star. You be an individual, single, everyday person. It doesn't matter. You should be able to trust your doctor and trust that your doctor does not engage in this kind of conduct. So we're going to keep an eye on what happens with this case, but I'm sure this is good news to many of the friends and family member of Matthew Perry. We are just going to send up prayers for his family on his loss. When we come forward, more today's breaking and trending news right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580. Travis is like George and Wheezy. He's moving on up. Last year, Tavis was number 45 on the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important radio talk show hosts in America. Wait for it. Wait for it. The 2024 list was recently released, and Tavis has jumped to number 33 on the list of the nation's most important talkers, making him the highest-ranked African-American on the coveted roster. Congratulations to Tavis Smiley from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580. We've got you black.
Febreze Fabric Talk. Hey, it's me, your couch. Today's my favorite day of the week. Febreze Fabric Spray Day. The occasional deep cleans are nice, but in between, you know I'm needing a refresh. Ooh, here she comes with the Febreze Fabric Spray. Oh yeah, spritz them armrests. Don't be shy. Nothing like a good spray down to get me smelling so fresh and clean. Don't forget my back. Nice. Febreze Fabric Spray. It's just that easy. Now we can both breathe happy. Febreze. La 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 la.
We're thrilled to announce that the Dear Future Wifey podcast is now available on the Urban One Podcast Network. This show, hosted by Latiris R. Whitfield, explores the journey of discovering and rediscovering love and relationships. With over 500,000 subscribers on YouTube, Dear Future Wifey has become a prototype for discussions about love and relationships. Learn how to rediscover love, heal, and have faith in relationships. Go to urbanonepodcast.com or wherever you get your podcast.
Texting enrolls you into recurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym for a while.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone.
Lower T.
Yeah, I went through it a while back. Once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The key ingredient is something called Tesnor, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again, at work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text.
Text LION to 42424 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast. Absolutely free. Text LION to 42424. That's LION.
We are back, and Dr. Raphael Sonnenschein and Lauren McKay are joining me. What I was started to say was that I was scheduled to go on CNN to talk about Matthew Perry, and it got preempted because of this Donald Trump second press, I'm going to call it a press conference, and that's generous, Lauren. And you are an Emmy Award-winning TV host, producer, former journalist, so you know this business well. And I think everyone's asking, why does the press continue to preempt all programming to cover these press conferences where Donald Trump literally repeats himself over and over and over again? I was listening to it, and literally I could complete his sentences. I mean, when he started talking, I could complete his sentences and what he was going to say, the same lies over and over and over again. Help us understand, why is legacy media covering this, like literally preempting programming to bring us these press conferences where he stands there for sometimes an hour and 30 minutes just rambling and repeating himself?
Yeah, Areva, it's almost embarrassing as a journalist, because you know that we already know what he's going to say, like you said. And I think the sad truth is he makes great TV. He knows he does. This is why he does The Apprentice. And that was such a long running show. He knows what he's doing. I hate that our main media is falling into it because it is such a distraction. But also this is his realm. This is the platform. And he is a candidate, right? So I think we're going to see a lot more of these random acts of press conferences for him to say nothing, to be honest. But I think people, it's almost like way back in the day when J-Lo and Ben, and it was like the Ben and Jen, and everybody wanted to know what they were doing. It's that level of sensationalism. Unfortunately, this is happening in politics, and our government and our future is hanging in the balance. But in the meantime, he makes good TV, and it's sad, but it's very true.
Yeah, I think you're right. Rafe, the lies, and just seems like the longer they let him talk, he just comes up with more innovative lies. Today, the big lie was no one knows Kamala Harris. No one knows her. Ask anybody on the streets. They don't even know her last name. They've never heard of her. Literally, he kept saying that over. He kept saying, like giving them proof, like receipts. Like, really, ask somebody on the streets. They don't know her. They've never heard of her. I asked them, what's her last name? And they couldn't tell me her last name. They've never heard of her. They don't know anything about her. I mean, that could be so far from the truth. And I guess it's that projection, right? What he really is saying, oh my God, everybody knows her.
To Lauren's point, if this is a TV show, it may be a TV show that has gone a little bit past its sell-by date. And even CNN today, after a half hour of his talking, cut away from him and said something that CNN, I was astonished that they said. Wolf Blitzer said, when he begins to answer questions, we'll return to the show. I thought for this timid media, that was a revolutionary act, like the Boston Tea Party, to only listen to him for a half an hour. But there's a certain point at which they themselves may start to read the room a bit and say the notion that you should have an empty podium and he keep the camera on it because at some point Donald Trump will show up. People may turn the channel. They may not watch. And that may be what really is the undoing of this whole thing.
Well, there's a part of me that, want it to continue, because as you watch, you can watch a person unraveling before your very eyes, and the unhinged nature, his unhinged nature and how he's becoming more and more unhinged is on display for the world to see. We don't need a debate. We don't have to wait until September 10th to see him on a debate stage to watch him. Now, he says he's doing these, Lawrence, to prove that he's accessible to the media where Kamala Harris is, according to him, running and won't sit down and answer questions. But he's not, thank you, Wolf Blitzer, he's not really answering any questions. He's just standing there repeating his same talking points over and over. They want open borders. They want criminals to come into the country. They want people to take your Black jobs. I mean, there's just about 10 or 12 things that he says over and over again. And they ask him questions, and he doesn't have any real answers because he hasn't sat down to think about anything. But there is something, I think, that is starting to be clear to the American people, which is that he, like the lie about being on the plane with Willie Brown and almost crashing. People are starting, I think, to realize that he's really dangerous. I'm not seeing, though, Lauren, the calls for him to step aside at the top of the ticket that we saw when Joe Biden had one bad day on a debate stage. What do you make of that?
So it's really interesting. It's kind of what you said about you're watching to watch him almost spiral, right? It's like, I don't know what it is about these types of personalities and characters. It's like, you watch because you don't like them, but you're watching anyway. It's like the mean girl that you want to be friends with, but you really hate her at the same time. And for whatever reason, for that reason, he draws an audience. But here's the thing. We have now had how many years of him doing this type of shenanigans? To the point earlier, is our media outlets going to start during this campaign series turning the camera another way? If that happens, then I think things could shift. People will shift. But because he keeps getting a platform to say nothing, to set up and say, hey, we're going to talk about financial, and then he just reams Harris for her laugh, which is so rudimentary. It's like we're in second grade again, but people are watching because it's so dumb. You know what I mean? Like, it's until someone says, no, we're going to actually focus on the real issues. And because news is so competitive, I think it's going to be hard for them to make that switch because he's entertaining, like him or hate him.
Yeah, he's bad TV, right? He's like that train wreck, which is why reality TV, as much as people hate it, they hate to watch it. They hate it so bad they fall in love with it. So the ratings are there.
That's exactly it. It's like trash TV that you know you shouldn't be watching, but you watch it anyway.
Yep. And you start binging, you start eating your popcorn, drinking your
and
iced
you're like,
tea.
well, their life is more messed up than mine, so I'm gonna keep watching. It's that. It's like he's so nutty that it makes me feel better about myself. You know?
Yeah, and it's almost that culture point, like, Game of Thrones. If you didn't watch and you weren't able to talk about it at a cocktail party, you kind of missed something. So everybody has to know what's the craziest thing Trump has said lately so that you'll be able to jump into any conversation at a cocktail party. Real quickly, before we have to take some commercials, Ray, do you have a job for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. over at the foundation? Because it seems like he's desperately looking for jobs. Like he's willing to endorse you or, go on the road for you, do whatever it is you need him to do if you would just promise to give him a job. Why is this guy so desperate for a job in the White House?
Okay.
Anybody's White House.
Everything is new this year. I mean, it's all new. In the old days, a third-party candidate ran because they had a different point of view and they challenged the system. He now is bargaining with both campaigns who are completely opposed philosophies. And if only they give him a position in the cabinet, he will endorse them as if his endorsement is going to move mountains. Now, I can't tell whether that's crazy or hilarious or what, but in general, I'm back and forth this whole year between crazy and hilarious. Now, Trump has actually been kind of, I guess weighing it. And Harris said, what?
I don't even think she would take the meeting.
And then he said, she won't meet with me to talk about the great deal I'm offering her, not on principle, but I'd endorse her for a job.
Yeah, hold that thought, Ray. We're going to continue that conversation. Also talk about this drug price drop announcement or negotiation announcement by not just Harris, but Biden and Harris, what this means for the campaign and that big convention coming up next week in Chicago. When we come forward, right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
The right time. More of Areva Martin in real time when we come forward.
I'm Tyreek Wynn. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. A handgun registered to the infamous killer Christopher Donner, who is Black, has resurfaced more than 11 years after his death. Federal investigators say a pair of South American crime tourists, criminals who pose as tourists, may have used the gun in a robbery outside of the Beverly Wilshire Hotel in Beverly Hills, California last week. The Detroit, Michigan Reparations Task Force has a 35-question survey for Black residents to take to help them suggest how reparations should be made in the city. DRTF co-chair Sidney Calloway, who is Black, says they'll give the results to the Detroit City Council. New York City, New York Mayor Eric Adams, who is Black, plans on highlighting the migrant crisis when he heads to Chicago, Illinois next week for the Democratic National Convention. Adams says he'll be meeting with Democratic national leaders to talk with them about the issues he'll push for speeding up work authorization for migrants. That's the latest. I'm Tyreek Wynn on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Heavy traffic continues this early evening up to an hour and 10 minutes for those on the 10 East in Santa Monica between 20th Street and the 5-101 interchange. In industry, a stall remains blocking the right shoulder of the 605 North at Peck Road with a 20-minute backup from the 105 Imperial Highway interchange. More heavy delays continue back in West LA's 405 South between Wilshire Boulevard and Palo Verde Avenue, over an hour and 30 minutes. And in Hollywood, a 35 to 40-minute backup still runs heavy for those on the 101 South between Sunset Boulevard and the 10 7th Street interchange.
Lowe's knows their great paint savings means you get the colors you want at prices you'll love. Get 20% off select 1-gallon cans and 5-gallon pails of paint or stain. Valid through 8/21. Selection varies by location. See store or Lowe's.com for details.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Chargers coach Jim Harbaugh appears to be the only NFL coach or executive willing to give Colin Kaepernick a chance to return to the NFL. Harbaugh confirmed that he has offered a coaching position on his staff to the former NFL quarterback. Harbaugh said he talked to Kaepernick earlier this year after accepting the Chargers job. Harbaugh is waiting to hear back from Kaepernick. Kaepernick, now 36, has been out of the league since 2017. He was blackballed by the NFL for kneeling on the sidelines during the national anthem to protest social injustices in the U.S. Harbaugh's coaching offer is the first legitimate opportunity for Kaepernick to return to the NFL since the 2017 season. It is no surprise that Harbaugh is trying to open the door for Kaepernick. Kaepernick was Harbaugh's starting quarterback for 2 seasons when Harbaugh was coaching the 49ers. Stay tuned on this situation. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, y'all, come on. Pick up the drums.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it. Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power.
Environmental justice is racial justice.
Environmental justice is social justice.
This is KBLA Talk 1580.
Tips to help improve basic steps for building a budget in 2024. Building a budget can help you achieve and reach your financial goals. With a budget, you can keep track of your spending, avoid and get out of debt, limit overspending, pay bills on time, and build solid savings habits. What's the best way to get started? Figure out how much to set aside for expenses like rent, mortgage, bills, groceries, and entertainment. Understanding your past financial habits can help you make the proper adjustments for your budget. Adjusting to a budget can take time as you work to find the right balance, but keep working on it. For more financial health tips, visit chase.com or stop by a local branch. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase & Company.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here's what happens when you advertise on KBLA Talk 1580.
3, possibly 4 weeks ago, I heard an advertisement on your radio station from a company called Grid Solar. I would love to have that phone number so I can reach out to them with reference to solar panels being installed on my property.
Our listeners are aware and engaged, but more than that, they are loyal. When they hear empowering messages that uplift their community and help them live better lives, they respond. No medium reaches this coveted Black audience like KBLA Talk 1580. So, hit us up today at smb@kbla1580.com and let us help you connect with our loyal listeners. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Money to put.
We are back, and in this hour, Dr. Raphael Sonnenschein and Laura McKay are joining me. And in hour 2, we're going to be talking about all of the ways that artificial intelligence is being used, particularly to target voters online. Some people call it AI fakes, others call it deep fakes. But we have 2 experts that are going to join me to help you not be fooled by AI created content, which in many ways is spreading a lot of the disinformation about both of the candidates online. So we've got Dr. Brock. He'll be back in the house. He is an expert on all things media, communication, and social media, and also the author of a new book called Trust Responsible AI, Innovation, Privacy, and Data Leadership. All right, Lauren, next week, Monday, 3 days from now, thousands of people are going to descend on Chicago for the Democratic National Convention. People weren't so sure what was going to happen at that convention before July 21st, but since we now have a new candidate at the top of the ticket and we have a very, very excited VP candidate in Tim Walz, the excitement has gone through the roof. People are trying to get tickets, trying to figure out how they can get to Chicago, because this is going to be probably one of the most historic conventions for Democrats and probably the U.S. in all times. What are you expecting to happen next week as the party goes to Chicago?
Yeah, I think it's going to be quite interesting. I think there's a lot of dynamics. There's a lot of shifting. There's a lot of shifting quickly. There's a lot of, bolstering and pushing Harris to, I think, differentiate herself from Biden, but also embrace. It's like this interesting balancing act that she's going to have to do and that she's already proposing that she's going to do. She started that. I know we're going to get to it in a bit, but she already has started that with the discussions about inflation and groceries and that. So that's a differentiating moment that I think she's going to capitalize on. I think it will probably be smart for her. People need to, not to underscore Trump's point, never want to do that, but people really need to know her at the end of this and like what she's standing for, how she's gonna walk through this campaign. And I think she knows this, and this is her opportunity to do that and to really shine. And so I think what we're going to see is her doing this balancing act of trying to almost come into her own, but not seem so separate and so different from Biden as to not lose voters. And I think that she's kind of ran it back on some of the things that she was really strong about, like immigration and things like that. But I think it's to appease to some of those swing voters, which at this point in the race is smart.
So it's interesting that you say that, Lauren. Rafe, a friend of mine, hit me up on social media and said, Areva, go to Harris's campaign page. She doesn't have any policy positions. Now, this was about a week ago. I haven't checked back with the website to see if they've put anything up. And, I said to her, don't worry, this all just happened. They are running as fast as they possibly can, trying to stand up a brand new campaign, pick a VP. This is before walls had been picked. And now there's critique, some in the media and more from Donald Trump, that she has not sat down for a major interview with NBC, CBS, or one of the big stations. What do you make? Lauren says she's got to define herself at this convention. People got to know who she is, what she stands for. She's got to tie herself to Biden, but not too tightly. For those that don't like his policy, she's got to redefine herself. Do you think that's the assignment for her at this convention, or is it something else?
I think I agree with Lauren about her own identity. I saw the two of them on TV in Maryland. She doesn't have to do a lot. They just behave so differently. In other words, the old rule is watch candidates without the sound on. And if you watch them without the sound on, the energy level she brings and the kind of experience he brings, they balance each other. But right now you want the energy, and it's the energy that's moving the needle. I think she should not listen at all to anything the big time media is saying. No offense meant to all my friends in the media. Whatever advice they give her is an excellent guide to what they should not do. And she's finally running as a Democrat who doesn't have a laundry list of policy positions. It's the most boring party in the history of the universe. And that, halfway through, I said, wait, I've got 10 more policies to tell you about. She's already changed from Biden by running on freedom instead of running on a kind of horror vision, although it is a horror vision in reality, but she's substituted freedom, which has tremendous appeal beyond what Biden was doing. Tremendous appeal. And then people are saying, well, don't run on values. In the old days, people said Democrats are no good because they don't run on values. Then you run on values and people say, where are your policy positions? Then you run on policy position. You say, I hate all of your policies. She's got it. She's got the formula, and she probably just has to stick to it because, folks, it's kind of working.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement with you. Take no advice.
Because
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Would like you to do X, Y, and Z. It's like, maybe we should ask the voters. They seem to be like saying something.
Yeah, we should look at these polls. Some have her ahead of Trump in 5 out of 6, some as many as 6 out of the 7 swing states. And overall, They said if the election were held today, she would win. I'm in total agreement with you. Do not listen to mainstream media because their interest is not the interest of voters. Their interest is the interest of their shareholders and ratings, and driving those ratings in the best way that they can. Why should she sit down with someone only for an opportunity to ruin what has been so far the most flawless rollout of a campaign that anyone can imagine? Even people that don't like her, like many Republicans, have been having a hard time critiquing this campaign. And I'm thinking back to an article written in the New York Times before July 21st that said Biden was a list and Trump was a vibe. And now the reverse, because you have Trump standing in front of his golf course or Mar-a-Lago reading off this list of complaints and grievances about how horrible the country is. And we got this vibe. I mean, vibe doesn't even describe what we're seeing. So much so that Donald Trump has made up a story about her crowds. Lauren, have you ever seen someone obsessed as much as Donald Trump with crowd size to the point of saying he had more people at a rally than Martin Luther King for the I Have a Dream speech, which everyone pretty much agrees was about 250,000 people. And Donald Trump to try to debunk the huge crowds, 10, 12, 15,000 people showing up for Harrison Walls, is saying it's something. I couldn't even really understand what the man was saying, but it had something to do with like fake pictures of crowds, not really crowds. That's causing him a lot of consternation.
Look, I mean, the man believes in fake news. He believes in nothing's real, and except for what he deems as real in his own mind, and he just functions in his own universe, really. And we're just watching and guessing, I guess. But, I mean, I am really going to be, this is a round 2 for him, are voters really going to let him get away with dancing around issues, talking about crowd sizes, talking about Kamala Harris's laugh, being literally 6 years old? Are they going to let him do that for a second time around and legitimately take him serious? I think we'll see. Half of me says yes, half of me. I don't know. My faith in people is please just go challenge him a bit. But
well, you can't really challenge him, Lauren, though, because he will not allow himself to be a serious candidate. Yeah. Kellyanne Conway and other Republican pundits and advisors are telling him stick to the policies. But the reality is the policy he cares most about is staying out of jail. And if you watch that presser today, he spent a lot of time talking about the deep state conspiracy against him to prosecute him and put him in jail. I mean, he was obsessed with, he says, they really want to put me in jail. He was incredulous. I can't believe it. Really, they want to put me in jail. This is serious. I have to run. I have to win. I have to beat these people, because if I don't, they are going to put me in jail. I mean, he was making a plea to the American people. Do you guys really understand that this is about my personal freedom, not the freedom of this country, not your freedom for reproductive rights or your freedom to vote? None of that mattered. It was so clear in this moment today that the thing that's top of mind for him is his own personal freedom, the freedom of jail. He did file a motion today with that New York state court proceeding where he's supposed to be sentenced in mid-September, asking to postpone yet again of the sentencing that was originally going to take place in July and now it's supposed to take place in September. He's asking to put it off until after November, of course, claiming that it's going to prejudice voters and it's going to be prejudicial to him as a candidate. We'll see what that state court judge does. But when we come forward, I want to talk about these 30 uncommitted delegates who say, put us on the stage, give us some prime time speaking slots, give us some space to do our organizing, give us a whole laundry list of things, or else, Democratic Party, see what we will do during the convention. When we come forward, more of today's breaking news right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Oh, man. Looks like Bobby needs a ride to the airport again.
Grab the keys. keys? Who's taking Auntie and her friends to the swap meet?
Grab the keys.
How about we drop these boxes off at Miss Johnson?
Grab the keys.
Whether you're giving rides or hauling gear, you're all about getting things done. So do it all in a Chevy SUV. From the versatile Equinox and sporty Blazer to the roomy Traverse, our lineup of SUVs will carry you through every adventure. All you have to do is
grab the keys.
That's how we do. Head to your local Chevy dealer, where well-qualified buyers get 1.9% financing on all 2024 Malibu, Colorado, Blazer, Equinox, Trailblazer, and Traverse limited models. Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
1.9% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $28.60 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 15.8%. Must finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 7/1/24.
Join Black Women for Wellness 25th Annual Reproductive Justice Conference on August 15th at the California Endowment Center. Unite to protect Black women's rights and become an advocate for change. Tickets on sale now at bwwla.org. That's bwwla.org.
Workers in California cut and polish man-made stone for countertops, showers, and more. Without proper protections, workers breathe in harmful dust from the artificial stone material, which puts them at risk of developing silicosis. California employers are required to protect their employees from harmful silica dust by providing proper equipment and training. Stop dusty and deadly practices. Learn more at worksafewithsilica.org. This is a message from Cal OSHA.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer whenever I want? Can we sleep cooler? Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. 94% of Sleep Number smart sleepers report better sleep. And now, during our biggest sale of the year, save 50% on the Sleep Number limited edition smart bed, plus free home delivery on select smart beds when you add any base. Limited time. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com.
Febreze. As a rideshare driver, I love keeping my car smelling fresh and clean. So when I'm driving, I only trust new Febreze car vent clips, now with 3 times greater scent control, because it's that little touch that sets me apart. I can turn the intensity down for subtle freshness, or I can turn it up for when I want lots of scent. So whether it's set to low, medium, or high, with new Febreze car, I know my car's going to smell amazing, which keeps my driver rating right where it belongs. Picking up, Oscar!
All right. Every year at every convention, and particularly at the Democratic convention, because we are such a big tent party, there are delegates that decide that they want their own 15 minutes of fame, and they are going to hold a protest, not outside, not at the designated area that has been cleared by, local officials in the host city, but inside the convention hall. So this year is no different. There are 30 uncommitted delegates, but we know, Rafe, there are far more than 30 people who are planning some kind of protest inside the convention hall and probably during prime time when they are on the convention floor. What do you think should be the approach? We saw Vice President Harris about a week ago when she was getting some shouts at a rally. She said something like, "I'm speaking. Do you want Donald Trump to win?" I think her aides thought that was a little too harsh because recently we've been hearing her saying, let them speak, let them speak. And then she'll go into, saying, I agree with you. Yes, we do need a ceasefire and what she's doing. So it seems like she softened her stance that, advisors probably said, not a good idea to chastise these protesters. So what do you think we're going to see from her and others who will be speaking in those coveted 8 p.m. primetime slots? I know Biden is on Monday, Obama's on Tuesday, Walz on Wednesday, and then she accepts and gives her formal speech. Her family and all will see them on Thursday night.
This is really the only issue that's really dividing Democrats right now. And that's unusual. After all, you're talking about Democrats. Usually the whole platform divides Democrats. This is an important issue. How it gets addressed on the stage versus the audience is a fundamental question. And as Lauren knows, as a TV producer, a political convention is a TV production to address the whole nation. And I think clearly we've seen in the last few days there will be interruptions, and the question is, how do you handle it? I think the first time Vice President Harris was probably pretty annoyed because she had met privately with people who were dissenting from Middle East policy before, and then this happened. And I think it kind of, I think when she had more time to consider how to respond, you probably can't allow the convention to turn into something that is only about what people are saying in the audience. And at the same time, there's a point of view that has to be heard. And I think they're probably thinking really hard about who can speak to some of that from the stage, not necessarily bargaining with people about who the speaker will be, but maybe being a little bit proactive about that. I would not say this is easy, though, Areva. I think this is a genuine issue for the party. That's not an issue in the same way for the Republican Party.
No doubt. It's a real issue. What do you think, Lauren? I'm sure you've seen both ways that it's been handled. And what do you think is the best way? We know I've been at these rallies, some of the reproductive justice rallies, where you see the protesters outside, but then you get inside the event. These are people who've been, quote unquote, vetted, have been invited, have gotten tickets. So we know, you're not getting all the protesters corralled outside. You are going to have protesters that will be inside this convention hall. And no matter what the party says, this is their opportunity to voice their opposition, and they're going to be loud and disruptive if they need be.
Yeah, I mean, this issue, to the point, it is such a dividing issue, and people are very worked up, and it's very current, and people are passionate about it. And I think that it is, I think it's got to be handled. I think Kamala Harris saw how to not handle it. And I think she's got to really walk this line very carefully. And so I think, to your point earlier, I think her advisors were like, look, you got to not come so hard. So I think that's probably top of mind for her. But how it all rolls down, I mean, to be honest, that's kind of the beautiful part about live TV. You got to just let it roll out. But I think people want to be heard, and I think we're not, from many people's point of view, they're not seeing, they're hearing her talk about it, and Walz has been very upfront in talking about it, even calling what's happened in Palestine intolerable. But words and actions are two different things, and I think people are really looking to be heard, and then to have some promises, sort of give some receipts. They want receipts, and I don't think they're going to let up without it.
Yeah, and this goes back to the policy. You're right, Rafe. This is not a duo. Harris and Walz don't have a long policy list. They're not, they're talking about the economy. They're talking about climate change. They're talking about reproductive freedoms. But it's not a whole lot they can say on this issue, seemingly, that's going to satisfy these protesters. They've already said, yes, we agree there should be an immediate ceasefire. We agree there should be more humanitarian aid provided. We agree that the hostages need to be released like today. But what these protesters, many of them, want is a commitment to back away from the funding of Israel and to do other things that this administration, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican, is not likely to do.
Well, I don't think that dealing with protest always involves the necessity to devise a policy that everyone will be happy with. And sometimes the fact is, this is the policy of the United States, whichever party is in, but there's gradations of it. And there's a substantially different discussion in the Republican Party that is much closer to Prime Minister Netanyahu and kind of actively working with him. And the Democratic Party is kind of pushing him and not pushing him. This is life.
Let me ask you real quick. Would it matter if Kamala Harris came out like really hard, like denouncing him? Would that mollify any of these protesters?
Well, but again, I think at a national convention for one of the two national parties, I'm not sure you can use the stage to simply have a dialogue with one. I think you have to hear people. And I think Lauren is saying people need to be really heard. I mean, really heard.
Well, you got prime time, so I don't know how much really hearing you can do with these protests.
Yeah, but I think words matter. I think Lauren's right. I think words matter, but it's not like it's a vehicle to change policy overnight. But I think there are gradations that she's already introduced that slightly separate her from what has been Biden's policy. And she said a few things that are important messages that are serious. And I think that's how foreign policy is made. It's these subtle changes in tone and emphasis rather than suddenly announcing a complete shift in policy. I'm not sure that's realistic to happen.
No, I don't think a policy shift is going to happen either, but it doesn't seem like these slight shifts, this tweaking around the edges, Lauren, is doing a whole lot to satisfy these folks who, are diehard in the wood, 10 toes down about this issue.
Yeah, I mean, there's the states is like, we're really in deep in this entanglement. I don't know what to even call it. An entanglement with Israel and Palestine. We are so in deep. It is almost beyond Harris and Walz's hands at the moment. And I think that is unfortunately the reality that these protesters are going to have to grapple with too. So I think whatever is in their power that they could commit to, that would help. But we're in deep in this, and I think that's just the reality.
Well, I think it just means we're going to have a lot of drama. So make sure everyone is tuned in all next week. Democratic National Convention is going to be a lot of excitement, a lot of joy, a lot of tears, a lot of happy people. But there is going to be some drama, which makes us Democrats at the end of the day. Thank you so much, Lauren. Thank you so much, Rafe. I can't wait to experience this historic moment and then come back and talk about it with folks like the two of you. Again, appreciate your time. When we come forward, we're going to be talking about those deep fakes and how they are impacting this year's presidential and even down ballot races. Stay with us. KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward. Thanks, guys.
Bye, Areva. Bye, Lauren.
Bye.
Nice to be
Bye.
on.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.